Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the medical equipment world and healthcare. Get the scoop, the podcast where we break down durable medical equipment, patient care, and real world solutions for caregivers, families, and healthcare professionals. I am your host, Tara, your certified medical equipment specialist. And Silas is not here today, but he is listening in. Whether you're new to DME or a seasoned provider, this show is here to give you insight, tools, and stories that matter. A quick disclaimer though, the information shared in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. Always consult with your physician or your healthcare provider regarding any medical decisions or concerns. Neither the host nor guest assume liability for actions taken based on content discussed in this episode. And y'all know I always say in any other episode. So I am so happy today. I have Mr. Richard A. Beckner. Richard, welcome to the Medical
Thank you.
Healthcare Get the Scoop. We're happy to have you. Thank you for taking your time, your busy schedule, to be a part of our show.
Well, thank you for having me. This has been wonderful already. Just chatting with you a little bit over the email, and yeah, I'm anxious to get into this.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So when I looked at you, I heard you on Diane's podcast, and I was like, oh my God, I would love to chat with you because what you're talking about is so important. And it's a discussion that a lot of people, you don't really think about it until you get into that situation.
Yeah.
And I just feel like it's something that people need to know about. And what we do is we try to share resources and network and put people together when they need different type of sources when in this healthcare journey. And it is definitely a journey. And it's an
Yeah.
ecosystem that we've kind of like, try to put pieces together and put people in place and kind of refer to those resources and network as we can. And so today I'm going to go ahead and read your bio.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yes, I am. And so then I'm going to ask you some questions so we can enlighten the audience out here, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so Richard A. Beckner is an experienced attorney whose extensive background in healthcare provided a logical foundation for his transition to elder law. His professional journey has afforded him a comprehensive understanding for the complex legal challenges within the healthcare sector. Richard focuses his practice on estate planning and the strategic development of trust designed to safeguard clients' financial interests and address family needs from a healthcare perspective. A proven track record of success. Richard's achievement in the healthcare industry include training operational and legal teams, enhancing workflow efficiencies, and managing legal actions on behalf of plaintiffs, as well as providing effective defense for clients. He has successfully partnered with health plans, disability plans, hospitals, professional practices, hospital systems, and government payers. Most importantly, he is most proud of representing individuals and their families. Dedicated to client success, Richard Beckner prioritized delivering explanatory legal representation and informed strategic counsel. He recognizes that distinct needs of each client and is committed to cost effectively assisting them in navigating today's intricate legal environment to achieve their objectives. Richard, you're talking my language.
That's great. That's great.
We have CFS Medical Supplies and Equipment, but we have
Hmm.
the sister division is called CFS Solutions DBS. And that division is, we push consulting,
Yeah.
educating families, and trying to give back to help families navigate this journey. And so thank you for what you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm happy to do it. It's my calling.
Yeah, yeah. I tell you, it's a service. I was listening to a sermon yesterday, and one of the sermon was talking about service, loving our neighbors and off in
That's right.
service, right? So I know a lot of times people probably don't think of it like that, but when you're helping people and you're giving resources and information and just trying to help a family navigate anything for that matter, I just feel like that's a service in itself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's invaluable. It
Yeah.
can be.
Yes, it is. It is. So Richard, I mean, my God, so how did you get here? How did you I read your bio? I know that you've been
Yeah.
a lawyer for 25 years.
Yeah.
How did you get to what made you want to do this for the elderly?
Sure. Sure. So I played around in the healthcare space for most of my career, and
Mhm.
it dawned on me, and no aspersions to companies, but I was making money for companies,
Hmm.
for profit companies, and it really didn't feel as rewarding. And it's probably selfish on my part, but I was thinking, no, this doesn't feel right.
Mm.
So my law firm, Faithful Elder Law Solutions, kind of describes what it is. I'm a person of faith,
Hmm.
and I started praying about it and realized my whole career, even before I became an attorney, was just had this inherent need to help others, to serve others.
Wow.
And I thought, what better way to do it, especially with the explosion of what they call baby boomers and the explosion of people needing this type of services. It just made imminent sense to me to go ahead and see if I could insert myself. I mean, I know how to do this, so why don't I go ahead and insert myself into this and try to see if I can help?
Yeah, and this is really the need for it too, and especially as you talked about aging in place and how, baby boomers and what it was like 10,000, I think it is, to turn 10,000 term baby boomers every day. That's a
Yeah,
and so as those things increase, and I've seen it firsthand of how, when you don't have that, don't know anything or the legal part of it, even though it's so many different moving pieces when it comes to healthcare, and so it is a lot. And then until you don't really realize it until you're actually in that moment.
and all of a sudden, yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. And what's weird, one of the things I found out too, Tara, was about 68%, and I'm going to use this term estate planning, which can mean everything. It can be
Hmm.
wills, it can be powers of attorney,
Hmm.
it can be other things. But about 68% of the US population, adult population, doesn't even have any estate planning.
Wow.
So think about that in the backdrop of what we're going to talk about in terms of just if you're trying to care for an aging parent and you don't even have the proper plans in place, just how potentially catastrophic that can be.
Yeah. It is, I had an experience myself with my husband. Unfortunately, he had a massive heart attack in 2021, and it was so I mean, I was like, wow, like it just happened so fast, and I was just, when you start talking about, the legal parts of things, right? Even I would go back to even my grandmother. I remember when she was in the hospital and they were saying like, oh, someone has to make a decision here. And my mom was just such in a mess. And my whole family was actually, my grandmother was there and someone had to make a decision. And unfortunately, my sister and my mother was not trying to do it. And so I had to literally like, look, you guys have to do this, and I just had to just take over. But if you don't
Yeah,
have those things right there in writing to say, what your wishes
that's
are,
it.
it is tough because at that point everybody's like looking at each other like, well, what are we going to do here? But if you have those things documented already, it makes such a huge difference. It makes a
It,
huge
it
difference.
it's loving to your family members because you're basically saying there may become a time where I'm going to become incapacitated or I'm
Yeah.
not going to be able to make medical decisions for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Why put the responsibility on my family members to make that call, make that decision?
Yeah.
You can do it while you're able bodied and you have capacity. Do it now. That way, gosh, mom told me this is what she wants,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
dad told me this is what I need to
Yeah.
occur, and then you have it. So the medical power of attorney, the living will, the whatever. I mean, there's a myriad of documents, but that's medical power of attorney is one of the most important ones
Oh
for
yeah.
that very reason.
You gotta have it. Well, we're gonna go back. We kind of like shifted a little bit, but I'm
Yeah,
gonna
sorry about that.
oh no, hey, this is, I tell people we just have coffee and conversation here. There's no scripted. We just talk and just share information with people, and hopefully someone can take everything that we share and use it to help them or be prepared when the time, God forbid, if something like that should happen. So, what are the biggest legal mistakes families make when caring for an aging parent?
So the primary this, and I could speak for hours on this, but the primary thing is failing to plan. And I haven't updated my website in a while, but when I put my website together, that was the focus I was trying to convey to anybody that was visiting the website is you have to be proactive, you have to plan ahead because you don't know what tomorrow brings. And it's really important It's not only a good thing for you because it can help you control what you want and what you want your wishes to be, but also it just takes a lot of stress and concern and worry off of your family if you express those wishes to your family. Um, One of the things we talked about, well, I did too, to baby boomers. You have various degrees of baby boomers, and some have are sharp as they come. My father is amazing how bright and cogent and clear headed he is. Other people, not so much, and they can be even people younger than him that might have some mental health or mental capacity issues. One thing I've learned with my clients is if that's a family member, you're missing some of the signals because they're living with you, right? So they don't necessarily know. Oh, I'll get to this. Mom said, yeah, I need to get something like this in place, maybe next year or the year after.
Mhm.
Happens all the time. At least once a week, I'll have a client or a potential client reach out to me and say, well, after my birthday or after whatever. And then that rolls around and there's another excuse after that. So it's just not planning ahead for the potential crisis. And then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, now there's a crisis. Now that individual doesn't have capacity. Let's say there's a stroke or something to that effect, and now your mental capacities is such that you can't make certain decisions on your own best interest. Well, you're going to have to seek guardianship, and that's a pretty involved process where you have to involve the courts, and it's really difficult. It's can be potentially expensive, and it certainly is not a nimble way to address and care for your loved one and take care of them.
Yeah, it is. It really is because I tell you, I mentioned earlier about my husband having a massive heart attack, and yeah, he was incapacitated. He couldn't say anything, do anything. I thank
Yeah,
God we had a
yeah,
trust and we had things in order. And even that when, that's a different topic, but on down, you have to make sure things are solid because even then
yeah.
sometimes things that when you start when that time comes and you're trying to make all these changes and moves and legal man, let me tell you, if you don't have that documentation in hand,
That's
you
right.
can forget about walking into a bank. You can
Yeah,
forget about making anything that has to do with anything dealing with that person or your estate or your family, your banking, your house, your properties, all those things. Oh my God. It's a nightmare. And already you are in a moment
yeah.
of grief and
Right.
going through so much. Who can even think about doing all that? Oh my God, it's so much. That's a whole different podcast. That's a whole
Well,
different show.
but you hit on actually, Terry, you hit on a great point because that's another really big mistake is people assuming, oh, I thought ahead and I got a power of attorney, so I'm good. Well, maybe it still would be a good idea. One, how long ago was the power of attorney executed?
Yeah.
Because some companies and some businesses like to see a current power of attorney, so 5 years or less.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing that you might want to consider is whether or not I need to update that. The other thing is that the individual could have changed their mind about certain things, 6 years that they don't necessarily want now 6 years ago
Yeah.
or currently. And then also too, what happens is there's these automatic assumptions. I mean, we've all looked at documents, legal documents, so probably me more than you, Tara, but I mean, because I'm an attorney, I'm supposed to look at more legal documents than you. But one of the things that people often do, and I'm guilty of this,
Mm-hmm.
there's a release, right? So you look at the release. Yeah, I'm going to look at a release, and I'm just thinking like whether it's a service agreement or if, it's a subscription agreement, you're going to look over the release, but then okay, I agree to these terms, right?
Yep.
So people automatically assume because this is a long document that it covers everything. And powers of attorney, I've seen powers of attorney that don't cover everything. So it doesn't address things like digital assets. And you have someone say, well, I uh, I don't have any cryptocurrency, so I'm good. Well, digital assets is more broad than that. I mean, do you have passwords? Do you have online banking that's the type of stuff that a lot of times people don't really consider or think about. And that's something that needs to be taken into consideration as well in their power of attorney.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, I can go on and on and on. We talked briefly about powers of attorney, and I said I could go on about power of attorney.
We're gonna come back and do an actual series of just talking about that and what people need to do and what they need to look for. And
Okay.
then and also too, if you I'll just kind of put this out there. If you have properties, you may think it's in the trust and you may think everything is good, and now years have went by. It could have been your spouse
Yep.
could have made some changes that you guys, oh yeah, just go ahead and take care of that. And now you're thinking everything is good, and now something happens and you didn't go back to check to see if they got finalized, and here you are at the last hour and you are like, what? Probate for what?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and a trust.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. It's
Trusts, the biggest problem with a trust is failing to fund it. So I
oh,
spent all this money to create this trust, and it's great. My trusts are usually about 60 pages long. This is great. It's exhaustive. But then my clients oftentimes won't go through the trouble of actually funding the trust. So what good is it? And so that's probably for another podcast as well.
ooh, that is. Oh, we got some good stuff, Richard. I mean, it's and me and I can speak from experience here. I'm talking like I went through this. Like I literally went through this. And the crazy part about it is that literally, my husband, unfortunately, he passed away in March of 2021, and I literally just had an issue come up. It's been about 2 years ago now that literally took me for a ride. When I tell you it took me for a ride, Richard, I was like, what in the world? And so, and can I say this? We're talking about seniors, but let's just say that when you become 18 years
That's
old,
it. That's it.
I really believe, and I'm just speaking from what I went through, and I'll just say that I feel like people should literally look into this early because we never know. We can get in an accident. We never know what's going
That's
on
right.
with us. Things can happen out the blue. You just never know. Like I've seen people because we work with all kind of patients who's young who has a stroke or a heart attack. I mean, there
That's
is
right.
no age limit to what you're going through. But once
Yep.
you turn 18, you now are responsible for a lot of yourself, your things, your personal things, and what have you, right? And I just feel like it's something that everybody should be doing. Like I don't think it should just be for seniors. We're saying seniors and elderly, but yes.
Have you been on my website? Because that's
I
what I talk
did.
about.
I did
It's
look at your site.
Yeah,
Yes, I
it's
did.
18 to 118. You
Yeah.
need to have this stuff in
You need
place.
to have it. You need to have it, and it's a hard feeling, and it's tough. It's tough. So, the next question, Richard, is legal considerations when placing a loved one in an assisted living or memory care.
Yeah, so the big thing that jumps out of me for that is
Hmm.
typically, and first of all, don't feel like you have to review and sign something immediately. Again, going back to how you were talking about how we're under stress or worried about our loved one, so
Hmm.
that well, that back part of your brain that's not really good at decision making kind of takes over and gets an overdrive, and because of that, it's pretty difficult to make clear-headed decisions sometimes because you're worried.
Right.
That's the best time, probably not the easiest time, but that's really the best time, most opportune time to take a break, take a deep breath. I have to methodically go through this process with my loved one and with the facility. The facility, if it's a good one, they'll understand that and they won't try to press you into push or signing documents really quickly or being financially responsible. There are some facilities, and they're few and far between, I think, but there are some facilities that want the caregiver, so to speak, the adult child, to sign financial responsibility on behalf of their parent. They don't have to do that. There's state law, federal law that prevents that. Certainly requiring it. So those are the things you need to consider and take into consideration. The other big thing is just making sure that the documents you're signing are appropriate. What I mean by that is do they enable me to visit mom as much as I want? Do they enable me to
Mhm.
understand I can access mom, I can talk to mom whenever I want, I have free reign in keeping up and maintaining that relationship with her, even if she's at this facility, on and on and on. I mean, but there's just a lot of things that one might. The big thing is just making sure that they're very transparent and they're very open.
Mhm.
Have mom at the facility. There's some transparency there.
Okay, so let me just kind of go back a little bit because now I'm like, I get my antennas get this sticking up here, Richard. So
Yeah.
wait a minute, let's just be okay. So because we deal with a lot of assisted livings and nursing homes and things like that, and one of the things I've had clients to tell me is that they were going to court, and I'm like, what are you going to court for? It was like, my husband was in a facility. It wasn't an assisted living, it was like a nursing home or something. No,
Hmm.
rehab. It was rehab. And they didn't want her to take him home. They wanted him to stay there. And so they were saying that, he's not ready to go home. He shouldn't be going home and all these things. And she's like, no, I want to take my husband home. Like, so how does all of that work? Because I know you were talking about assisted livings, but when you talk about, you're talking about making sure that you sign proper documents, looking at, would you say it would be wise for people before they put their family members in any of these type of situations to maybe having a lawyer look at the contract or something? How does all that work?
Yeah, yeah. So I hate using that feeling. That's that old adage or that old saying, "Go with your gut." But if you're looking at a document and
Hmm.
something just doesn't feel right,
Hmm.
doesn't hurt to take it home and look it over again. It doesn't hurt to talk to an attorney and say, "Hey, would you care to take a look at this?" Most attorneys, even if they don't do this stuff, can parse through the language. Some will do it without charge, some will do it with a nominal charge. And it's just, hey, have you thought about this? Oh, did you notice this sentence right here? There's a mandatory arbitration provision. So if
Hmm.
if the facility is egregiously bad, and obviously that's not your hope or your desire at all, but if it's egregiously bad, here's a condition, here's a arbitration provision in here. They call it an alternative dispute resolution provision. My phone just keeps ringing. Sorry. Um, can you hear that?
No, I can't. I couldn't hear anything.
Okay, it's probably through my headphones. Um, so it could be that there's this arbitration alternative dispute resolution provision that's in the actual agreement itself, that you want to be able to know that, because otherwise it could be that you're agreeing to not ever go after them in court, and you might not ever get your day in court because, hey, you said here in this ADR provision, that this arbitration provision, that you don't have to go through court.
Wow.
So something to consider as well.
Yeah, that is
Answer your
interesting.
question, Tara?
Well, bottom line is you need to look at the fine print
Yeah.
and not just rush to sign any documents. And know that. And then when you talked about earlier about the responsibility of the child, like, so here you are, you put your loved one in a facility, but then you would could possibly be responsible for the bill and things of that nature.
Well, I mean, there are state laws that some are on the books. There's probably 30 plus states that actually have something like that. I'm just drawing a blank on what it's called. And oh my gosh, I just did a call on this not too long ago.
Hmm.
Um, it's rarely enforced. Now, having said that, it largely, and I hate to, like, I'm not drumming up business for myself, but I would largely suggest that any potential client or any person that's considering taking a loved one into a facility, to one, look at the documentation, and two, there could very well be, I don't think it's going to be likely, hopefully not, but there could be attempts to make the adult child financially responsible for their parent while they're in the state.
Wow. Well, do you cover different states or you just only do Kentucky?
So I'm licensed to practice law in Kentucky and West Virginia.
Hmm.
So I was in Ohio and I went inactive. So what I've found is, if we're if push comes to shove, and I really needed to practice somewhere other than maybe Virginia or Alaska or California or something like that,
Hmm.
I could probably get licensed within a matter of a few weeks. Excuse me.
Hmm.
There's something called a Pro Hoc PHA, or I can get a licensed attorney, and I know quite a few in different states. They
Hmm.
could sponsor me so I could get licensed in other states. But right now, I'm currently just in West Virginia and Kentucky.
Okay. So if someone reached out and say, "Hey, I'm here in California. I would love to talk to Richard." So, um,
Hey, I'll get them to an attorney in California that does this.
okay,
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking because I know sometimes that we do referrals and resources and
yeah,
things like that, and so and that's good, and especially when it's coming from someone that's so important because you know how they operate, and of course you can't
yeah.
guarantee anything, but at least you know that you've worked with them before and had clients to work with them, and so. My goodness, this is some good stuff, Richard. So the next one is how to protect aging parents from financial exploitations and scams.
That's another one. We could have another one on this that on that
I
topic, Terry.
know.
So in gosh, we're probably all in some degree guilty of being hoodwinked by scams. So one of the things is that's why it's really important to have a durable power of attorney. So durable power of attorney is, yeah, at least in Kentucky, you have a it's called a durable power of attorney. Some people call it a financial power of attorney,
Hmm.
and then you have the healthcare power of attorney.
Hmm.
They both are distinct and they serve different purposes.
Hmm.
A financial power of attorney or a durable power of attorney would enable the agent to. So let's say I do have a durable power of attorney and my wife's the agent. So if for some reason I forget to pay a bill,
Hmm.
or for some reason a bill was paid on my behalf that I was not aware of, it can potentially put in some protections in place for you so you can largely avoid being a victim of scamming and things like that. It can be the right financial power of attorney if it's voluminous enough, if it covers enough bases. So that's one of the things. The other thing is just you had said before, Tara, it's education. It's just making sure that all of our adult parents, of course, they're adults and they're parents, but you go on to say they're aging parents,
Hmm.
are, are careful because if it sounds like there's a crisis, if it sounds like we talked a minute ago about how the back of our brain doesn't think as clearly,
Hmm.
scammers, and they'll deliberately try to set up situations for people, especially people that are in aging populations, to cause that fear,
Hmm.
because that automatically makes, oh, I got to protect my son or I got to protect my daughter, and that shuts off that thinking part of the brain. So it's just having those conversations and that education with your aging parents and saying, look, hey, if you're contacted by somebody and they say they need money from me or they need money on my behalf because I've been in a there's a medical situation or issue, here's the number to call, or here's what you do when somebody does that. It's being proactive. There's that word again, planning ahead and thinking ahead to making sure
Hmm.
that there's a game plan in place. So if something like that does happen, the aging parent knows, oh, okay, I can double check this. I can call a number, I can do whatever the plan is that you've developed with your parent. But I can do something here to make sure that this is a legit concern and it's not somebody just trying to scam me out of money.
Right. And that's so critical because as we know, billions of dollars have been lost in seniors. It's unfortunate. And it just really hurts my heart when you see that even on the news when they're talking about seniors have been, taken advantage of and all this stuff. And it's just so sad. Like people have nothing else to do. So it is definitely good to have that, someone else to be able to handle your finances. And I know sometimes, especially the older people, they're like, no, I'm good, and but not realizing that you're just trying to protect them and just making sure that that doesn't happen to them, hopefully.
And that's the good thing about a durable power of attorney. You're not saying you don't have authority anymore to
Hmm.
the aging parent. Yeah, I'm not. I have this. You have this durable power of attorney. It just means, in addition to you paying your bills, I have authority to pay your bills if I need to.
Right.
So making that distinction is really important for a lot of people. Oh, I'm not losing my autonomy. I still get to do everything I want to do. It's
Hmm.
just like a safeguard, a backup, insurance plan kind of thing. So, okay,
Exactly,
makes
exactly.
sense.
And then I would say understanding the different types of power of attorneys too, as you mentioned earlier, because you have different kind. I
Yeah,
think sometimes we think just a POA. Oh, do you have the POA? And you're thinking it covers everything, but it doesn't.
yeah, yeah. And that's one of the things back to when I was telling you about it. Yeah, thinking the POA covers everything. There are POAs that don't cover HIPAA. They don't cover things like that. So,
Yeah.
hey, I got this POA, so I can have the doctor talk to me about mom. And the doctor looks at the POA and says, "Well, it's there's no HIPAA off in here. There's no way for me to really, yeah, under federal law, I can't speak to you about mom's condition."
Right.
So that's
And that happens a lot too, because you think
yeah,
the POA that you have is just a power of attorney. That's just maybe for you to do some basic things, but not realize
yeah,
that they can't have talk about the health of your loved one to you without that.
that's
So
right.
there's so many different, that's a course in a class on its own. Just understanding those differences, literally.
We're gonna be talking a lot, aren't we, Tara?
Yeah, we are. We are. We are really because people need to know. Like, I look. I think when people, power is knowledge, and when people have the information, they can better make better decisions. You're already stressed out on anyways when you're taking care of your loved one, especially when something happens unexpectedly.
Yeah,
The last thing you're thinking about is paperwork and trying to figure these things out. But guess what? It doesn't stop. And
yeah,
you got to dry those tears. You got to put your hat on. And the thing of it is, too, let me just say this. The most vulnerable time is when you get taken advantage of. I'm talking from experience because at that point you're so overwhelmed with emotion that you start to sign anything. Okay. You starting to sign things, you're looking at things, you're like, oh, I just do this. And then when by the time you come through to yourself, you're like,
gotta
oh my
wind
God,
that in.
no one did it. Why you didn't explain that to me? Well, guess what? If you would have been prepared already, it would have already been documented. It would have been done. And all you needed to do was just go and pull that
That's right.
paperwork out. And then also just making sure all of those different things and layers is covered because they're like again, some things are covered in that POA or that trust, what have you, and then some things are missing. It is up on you to make sure all those things are in place, and that way you can grieve in peace without being
That's
stressed
right.
out about other stuff.
That's right. It makes for a softer pillow, that's for sure.
Oof, look, I'm gonna teach a class myself. Oh gosh, Richard, I tell you, it's whew, yes. So basically, what caregivers should know about guardianship and when it becomes necessary.
So there's one thing that is not as acceptable, at least in West Virginia and Kentucky. I can't speak for other states.
Hmm.
Kentucky's a little bit better than West Virginia. Is there is something called a springing power of attorney. So typically, a springing power of attorney is used. Springing financial power of attorney, springing durable power of attorney. So we're talking finances here.
Uh-huh.
The way that they read, and I do have clients that want them, and I've written some, but I've consistently found that a lot of doctors and a lot of banks and other people are not as open to the idea of the springing. What a springing is, Richard Beckner, I have a springing power of attorney. I don't, but I have a springing power of attorney that says when my PCP, my primary care physician, or a neurologist or somebody says that I lack mental capacity, the power of attorney springs into action. The authority springs into action, and now all of a sudden my wife is the agent on my behalf. That's very attractive to a lot of people because they are of sound mind and they're just thinking, well, okay, I don't really need to do this right now.
Hmm.
So let's do a springing. Problem is, not most, well, in my experience, most, especially in West Virginia, medical practitioners and doctors don't they're reluctant to make that determination that Richard Beckner has capacity issues, or Richard Beckner doesn't have the mental acuity that he needs to make financial decisions on his behalf. I can only assume they're worried about liability or something like that.
Yeah.
But that's part of it. But that's the big thing with financial power of attorney is just it comes into play whenever the individual it should only come into play whenever the individual either doesn't have the mental capacity or maybe they're sick. Maybe it's not a mental capacity issue at all. Maybe they're just ill. They're
Right.
sick and they're receiving cancer care or something like that. Well, my adult daughter is my financial power of attorney, so she's going to go ahead and take care of the bills that I know that are upcoming and due. Maybe it's a mortgage, maybe it's a water bill or something. Did that answer the question? I don't know if I got sidetracked there.
Yeah, no, you explained to what it was, and I appreciate that because I had never, I mean, I can't recall like the spring power of attorney, so that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Because yeah, and things happen, you just never know. Like I had a client, and she was in a car accident, and she was fine. I had talked to her probably maybe a week, and she had an accident, and she was in the ICU for almost a year, and she couldn't take care of her bills, and then she's always paid her bills and everything, and she's good now, like thank God she came out, but they gave her up. They literally told her family that she wasn't going to make it, and she did, but in the process of that, her finances, she's good, but she was telling me like, girl, like yeah, when that happened to me, like I didn't some of my bills didn't get paid for months. And I was like, what? And
Yeah.
so yeah, we just never know what happens, literally. It's crazy, but we have to make sure we
Yeah.
have things in order. Literally. And so I know there's so many different questions I could ask you, Richard. We would be on this call all day, but one I do want to ask you about is
Okay.
how elder law ties into safe home care and medical equipment needs and fall prevention. Because I do hear like lawyers, I know out here they advertise like, oh, your loved one been mistreated or taken advantage of and all these different things or hurt or what have you, reach out to us. So how does all that work?
Well, oh my gosh. So Tara,
I know,
but
right?
very, very high level. So one of the things that's really interesting about, I think, doing this elder law, elder care stuff is it, I was largely ignorant of how many companies are out there that can offer specialized services for different pieces
Mm-hmm.
of an individual or a patient. So it can be everything from your medical equipment, DMEs, DME, durable medical equipment,
Hmm.
and whether it's a walker or it's a chair or it's something that just assists you going up the stairs. There are all kinds of devices that many are covered under Medicare, not all, but that's something that's beneficial, right? Because now you have this DME that's necessary for the patient.
Hmm.
Is that DME covered under insurance? You actually have cottage industries that are designed for making sure that that's covered under insurance. You actually have cottage industries that come deliver the equipment to the patient that retrofit the home to take care of that for the patient, just to keep using the DME example.
Hmm.
So you're going to have a myriad of professionals and helpers that can come in and make that create that assistance for the patient.
Hmm.
And then that's notwithstanding, of course, nurses and personal home givers and in-home caregivers. There's plenty of places that offer in-home services to help teach and educate the use of DME equipment, things like
Right,
that. That's their niche. That's what they do.
right.
It's just one of the things that I want people to come away with from this podcast or from any consideration or interaction is
Hmm.
there's probably an, a person or a company or somebody out there that can assist that need.
Hmm.
So if you come upon an issue and you come upon a problem and it's especially if it's disconcerting and it's causing you anxiety and frustration, just pause a minute and start thinking and looking around and asking because there's a really good high likelihood, I guess is the best way to put it, high likelihood there's somebody that can assist you with that need.
Exactly. And that is so true. And it's crazy you talked about that because that's what we do is we do
Oh,
consulting. Yeah, for DME because it was medical supplies and equipment, but we also have the consulting side of it. And for years, I have always, advised families or, educated them on the proper products or what they, unfortunately, sometimes they go online and they order products, they don't know what they're getting, or they just, because a lot of times it's about specs of a product, right? So I always tell people anyone can sell you a product, right?
yeah,
I can tell you, oh, what this product does, but is it clinically a need for you? Because every patient is different. And so we
yeah,
are really big on education and information. And so that's why I always tell families like before you buy any products, you want to get a clinical assessment because there's tons of wheelchairs, there's tons of walkers, there's tons of beds. We know them all. But is it going to be a benefit, a positive or a negative for your loved one and what they have going on? You can have someone who has Parkinson's, and that one patient may have Parkinson's, another patient has Parkinson's, but at the stage, depending on the stage that they're in,
yeah,
they may
yeah.
need a different product than your loved one may need. I get calls and they say, "Oh, I seen someone walking with a three-wheel walker." Actually, I had this happen about 2 weeks ago. I had a client and she called. She says, "Oh, I want that three-wheel walker. I seen someone walking with it, and it looks just like it's so easy to manage." And I said, "Yes, but let's do a clinical assessment first." And she said, "Why do I need a clinical assessment?" Because I want to make sure that it's going to be a fit for you. So that's when we go into what you're dealing with. Are you falling? Now she's a fall risk.
There
Now,
you go.
he had several falls. I'm not going to give you a three-wheel walker. Now, mind you, the doctor wrote for it though.
Oh yeah.
The doctor wrote for a three-wheel walker. This patient has a fall risk. When I looked at her medical records and I'm looking over her documentation, I'm like, this is not good for a three-wheel walker for a patient who is a fall risk. So,
Probably has osteoporosis too.
oh my God. Say what? I'm sorry, Richard. What did you say?
That probably has osteoporosis too.
Oh, right. Oh my goodness, Richard. Yes. So I'm like, that's not good. So I had to tell her, and her son was so appreciative because he was like, oh my God, thank you. Because, my mom was just adamant. She saw this person with this three-wheel and she was adamant about getting it. I'm like, no, we can't do that. Now I can, if you decide to go somewhere else, that's on you guys. But I'm going to give you my professional advice. And I would not get my mom that because, it's not safe.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. So, but anyway, so my point to that is things like that. You definitely want to seek out a clinical assessment before you get these
yeah,
products because they are very detrimental. These are
yeah.
machines that you're
Yes,
using. Yeah. So I wanted to share that. So
that's great. Yeah,
yeah. So steps families should take before a medical crisis occurs. I think we kind of covered that already, right? Pre-planning.
yeah. In the end of the day, it's being proactive. It's planning ahead. I would I would strongly encourage everyone to speak with their PCP, to speak with their their attorney,
Mhm.
especially an attorney that focuses on this type of law, and really seek their guidance and their instruction. I've had I've lost track of how many people said, "Hey, yeah, I'm contacting you because I want to trust." Okay, that's great. But after I've talked to them a little bit, well, they weren't really a good candidate for a trust, so I'm not gonna perform and create a trust for them if it doesn't make sense. And that's why it's good to have, a trustworthy attorney that can be honest with you and explain why this is the right course to take. This is what I advise you to do, and then you go ahead and do an informed decision, make that decision and do it. But the big part of all of this is making sure that you're proactive and you're planning ahead.
Right. So when you think about, you just said something there, just kind of stuck me. You said a trust. So basically, a trust is not good for everybody. Is that what you're saying?
No,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah, it's not good. It's not good for. I'm not gonna say the word. I was getting ready to say it could. That's another.
That's another
That's another.
conversation. Okay. So
But
basically, you need to know your
yeah,
situation. It goes back to what
yeah,
we talked about clinical assessments. You need to
yeah,
understand what you have going on as an individual, and that will determine what type of setup that you should get. Is
that's
that?
right. I mean, there's about 8 or 9 different trusts that have performed different functions.
Mm,
And some people, and this is why, and my website says this, and that's what I say when I contact people. I don't charge for an initial phone call because I need to make sure I can help you first.
right.
And I'll have somebody oftentimes will say, "Well, I need to trust," and I kept talking with them, and no, not it's you wouldn't really I mean, yeah, I can give you a hammer to kill an ant, but it really you wouldn't benefit from it. But you would benefit from having a medical power of attorney, a durable power of attorney,
Hmm.
a will maybe. You expressed, and I'm just making this up. Actually, I have a client that just said they were really keen on making sure they had a living will.
Hmm.
So okay, let's do that. We'll create a living will for you that express your interest. You don't want it basically, it's like a DNR. That's a piece of it.
Hmm.
Do not resuscitate. That was very important to them that they didn't go through all these extreme medical procedures just to save their life. That stuff was a lot more important. And as we peeled it back and uncovered it through the phone conversation, that's what they were interested in. It wasn't a trust as much as just making sure that they had that right stuff in place. So that's why I don't charge for an initial phone call because maybe I can't help them, or maybe they're enormous. They have enormous value or enormous wealth. I'm not going to cover somebody with enormous value or enormous wealth just because I don't have the liability coverage in case I did happen to mess up somehow. I wouldn't think I would, but so that's why I need to have a basic conversation with somebody before I can say, yeah, let me be your attorney.
Right. Because a part now I hear a lot of people I know back in the day you hear wheels, get a wheel, you need a wheel, you need a wheel. What is a wheel worth? Because I hear people say, "Oh, a wheel is nothing. It's a waste of time. You need a trust." But you just talked about wheels, and of course you talked about the differences in the trust, and if you even need a trust, and it's just pretty much depending on your situation. So
Yeah.
is a wheel okay? Again, it goes back to what's going on with you. Is that what you would say?
Yeah, primarily it's what's your estate, and there are every state's a little bit different. You
Hmm.
can have an estate which doesn't require probate. It's a small enough estate that doesn't require probate. If let's say you're a single individual and you may own an old car, but you don't have any real assets, and you don't have any children, uh, you're not ever going to have any children, and you really just you don't have a need and you don't have a lot of goods. You don't have a lot of things that you accumulate that you want to disperse to other people, loved ones. Maybe a will's not right for you. Now, if you meet the criteria, so again, it depends on your state. But if you have assets, you own a home, you own a couple expensive vehicles or reasonably priced vehicles, you have children, you have dogs, you have cats, you want to take care of those children or those dogs or cats or other pets in the unlikely event that you pass, you want to put safeguards in place, instructions in place, so those wishes that you have are honored. And that's where a will comes in handy is just capturing that information.
Hmm.
Um, all the wills, at least in Kentucky, I'm not going to speak in general. All wills go through probate. I'm going to say that anyway. But in Kentucky and in West Virginia, the way that some people want to avoid probate is through the establishment of trusts, and that's where you'll get some people say, "You want to trust because they just don't want their assets to go through and be public knowledge because in probate it's public knowledge, it's public record. So
Yep.
a lot of times people want to do it for that reason."
Yeah, it is. Wow. My God, Richard, we could go on and on and on. I tell you, I have so many questions, but we're gonna have to come back and we're gonna do specific series, like
Okay,
specific topic on this, and we're gonna break it down and all that good stuff. And but for
okay,
today, I have really enjoyed this information. I've learned so much today. Thank
well,
you
good.
for your time. And what people need to reach out to you, I want you
Yeah.
to tell them how they can get a hold to you and all that good stuff.
Okay. So the website, and it's not great. I did the website, so it's not great, but it's sufficient. FaithfulElderLawSolutions.com is the website.
Mm-hmm.
FaithfulElderLawSolutions.com. My phone number, and this is a line that most oftentimes I'll pick up. It's 859-419-7311. Or
Okay.
my email address is rbeckner, and that's Beckner. So RBECKNER
Mm-hmm.
at faithful, the word faithful,
Mm-hmm.
E is in eagle, L is in Larry, S is in Sam.com.
Okay. All right. Well, you guys heard it today here with Mr. Richard Beckner. This has been a wonderful episode. I love this conversation. We definitely will be back on here, you guys. And what I'll do too is just kind of reach out. We have an app that kind of tell
Okay.
people like, hey, what is it you guys want to hear us talk about on the next episode with Richard? And so they can kind of send us some feedback on what what they want to hear. And
Yeah,
'cause I think it's a great thing. Like people can just learn so much and be prepared because we just never know when we need to be prepared.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, proactive planning is the name of the game.
That's the name of the game. Pre-planning. Pre-plan. I used to work for this company called Pre-planning Funeral Arrangements way back in the day, Richard. I tell you,
Yeah,
it was crazy. People be like, what? Like, but then some people's like, oh yeah, I need that, So
yeah,
I tell you, we have to be prepared. And so thank you again for taking your
yeah.
busy
You're welcome.
time to jump on the call with us. We are so excited and to put this podcast up. And as always, you guys, you've heard it here today on the medical equipment world and healthcare. Get the scoop. And just listen in for the next episode. This episode here was sponsored by CFS Medical Supplies and Equipment, CFS Solutions, DBS. And please go and download our free app. You can get it on Apple or Google. And what it has is news, blogs, and what's going on in the healthcare industry, and it's free and you can just kind of stay in the know. And then Richard's information to be on here also too. You'll be able to listen to the podcast and then you'll also be able to look at the blog and all that.
I'm sorry you cut out a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry, Richard. Could you hear me?
Okay, you cut out a little bit, Tara.
Oh, I'm so
No, you
sorry.
cut out a little bit for some reason. What were you saying,
Okay,
Tara?
I was saying that to download for everyone out there to download our free app, the CFS Medical
Hmm.
Supplies app on
Yeah.
Google or Apple. And it's like stay in the know, right? And it's a blog and news and information. They'll be able to see your information on there and how to reach out to you.
Oh,
And so again,
okay.
this is sponsored by CFS Medical Supplies and Equipment and CFS Solutions. And as always, you guys stay in the know. Knowledge is power. See you on the
That's
next
right.
episode.
Thank you, Tara.